Do it.
Hey, welcome back to another exciting episode of YOML. I am so excited to come back and do this every night. And today, I think we have a special book where we do a multi-part reflections. We have three reflections. We are on Lessons of Reflection number 170. It's part one of three for its new book. And I'll let Chris introduce the book and we can dish it out.
Yeah, this is a fun one. This is a special place in my heart book. It's called Running with Sherman, The Donkey with the Heart of a Hero by the author Christopher McDougall. If you remember Christopher McDougall, he was the one that wrote Born to Run that we talked about really early on in this whole entire thing, which is sneakily one of my top 10 favorite books and probably the most highly recommended book that I've given to anybody. Anytime anybody asks me to give me a book to recommend and it's just like, shot in the dark, I'm like, read Born to Run. It's probably my most highly recommended book, my most often recommended book. If somebody's asking me what's a book that I think you would enjoy, there's just something about the way that this guy writes, the way that he wraps up these. It's not explicit, like chock full of information. It's always subtle information and weaved in with an awesome story that keeps you engaged the entire time. And you learn along the way, and he'll drop interesting nuggets and things like that along the way, but you don't it's not like in your face, like about learning stuff. It's very subtle and it's more about the story that he's weaving around it
Right.
to build the narrative. And it has a really interesting way of writing and building his narrative. And for this particular book, it's about a little donkey named Sherman. Sherman was dying. Literally, he was on death's door and his hoofs didn't work. And I guess when a donkey's hoofs don't work anymore, like they can't walk, they literally die. If a donkey can't walk, they die. Sherman was heading down that road. His hooves were all jacked up. He'd been cramped up inside of somebody's shed or something like that because they didn't know how to take care of a donkey, and he wasn't able to live a donkey purpose. So Christopher McDougall and his family, they live on a farm in Amish country in Pennsylvania. Somehow somebody let them know about this donkey that was struggling to live at this other person's house, and I can't remember the exact chain of events, but somehow he acquired this donkey and was like, you know what, I'll try to give Sherman a home, or something like that. So he gets there and he joins their farm and he won't move. He won't do anything. He's just waiting to die kind of stuff. And so Christopher invites over his friend who's like a horse doctor who also knows a lot about donkeys, and she's really worried about him, and she was like, we got to get him walking. If you can get him walking, maybe there's a chance we can save him or something like that. So every single day he would try to get Sherman to go out in the pasture and walk a little bit, and they would get a little bit further each day. And I forget, there was some triggering event on one of these days where he couldn't get him to go anywhere at all for the most part, but he would maybe take a few steps each day, but it was like it just wasn't enough that he knew that it was going to he was going to die.
Right.
I can't remember the exact chain of events, but one day, like, Sherman decided, like, something caught his eye and he trotted a little bit and he was like, oh shit, he can go. He can do something, Long story short, that was when Christopher McDougall got this idea because he likes to run, right? So he was like, you know what, maybe I'll try to train Sherman to go run, or something, like I'll go with him and I'll do it with him. So he started to run with Sherman every single day. Well, I remember what the trigger was. There was this other donkey that the donkey lady would come over and bring with. And when that donkey would trot, Sherman tried to go trot with it or whatever. And he was like, oh, maybe this is the key. So maybe he just needs a buddy to go run with. So he started running with Sherman. And then this other horse started running as well. And then they both decided, hey, let's see what we can do with this. Let's train him for a marathon. Christopher McDougall had heard about this marathon in Colorado. It's like a burro race that's like through Leadville, which is like a really hard, it's really high up, and they do like the Leadville 100 and stuff like that. He had talked about it in Born to Run, and this particular event is like an ultra marathon basically with a burro race. So along the way, as Sherman's slowly starting to get healthier and healthier and more engaged, they decide to team up all together and try to run this burro race. So eventually I ended up getting a third donkey involved, and then they had another person that came on board who was their friend named Zeke. He was a troubled child that actually used to be like a straight A student and was like a scholar, and he had went away to college and actually tried to commit suicide in his first year in college. And Zeke was home from college because of that, and he was, didn't know what he wanted to do with his life. So Sherman actually ended up running with Zeke, and Zeke and him hit it off. Sherman trained for like a year for this whole entire thing, and they had these three donkeys. Christopher got his wife eventually to do this with him as well. So they had him, his wife, and this guy named Zeke, who was their neighbor's son that was troubled. And so they're all training these donkeys to slowly train for this race. And along the way, Sherman got healthy. Sherman started to become a donkey again. He was excited to go out and run in the woods and run up and down hills. He was chasing after friends. He was happy again. He was healthy. He was becoming the donkey that he once was. And he was, went from death's door to he was now a donkey. He was a donkey with a purpose. He gave him a purpose. He was to run every single day again, right? So eventually they ended up going to Colorado, and they did finished the race. And I'm not gonna lie, I got a little teary eyed when Sherman, because Zeke got hurt right before the race on the way to Colorado, and so Zeke was the person that trained with Sherman the entire time, for this race. And I guess the burro runner relationship is like really like symbiosis, kind of thing, got to be like in a groove to really do this stuff. So they had to have somebody spot fill in for Zeke last minute. And I think that was Christopher McDougall, I think actually ran with Sherman instead. I almost got really teary eyed the last bit of this book where Sherman is on the final stretch to the finish line and he sees Zeke. Zeke was waiting for him at the finish line and he got really excited and he ran at Zeke. I almost started crying. It was such a good book. So that's why it's called Running with Sherman, the donkey with the heart of a hero, right? So ultimately, this particular reflection, I'll share my screen, is about this is why I wrote, you can tell I like this book, right? This is why I wrote a 3-part series on it.
3-part is going to be a great book.
So I wish I would have allowed myself to write a 3-parter for Born to Run. That was before I broke my own rules. I actually crammed.
I mean, there's no rules that can.
Well, no, what I actually did for Born to Run, and I would have done that. I actually crammed 3 lessons, the 3 lessons that I wanted to do into that one reflection, because I was like, oh, I gotta get this one in, right? So long story short, this one is movement is medicine, right? So this particular reflection it's okay. So as you know, as people that have been following along with this journey, the day after Amelia passed away, I didn't know what to do, right? All I knew was I needed to keep moving for Amelia. That was the poem that I wrote her. What would Amelia do? Like, what would Amelia do? Just channeling her just being and everything that she taught me, fighting for life and never quitting and enduring. That was the first day after she passed away. I knew I had to keep moving for her. I didn't know what was going on in my life, but I just knew I had to channel her energy somehow and do something, anything. So I tried to decide on, I'm going to read 30 minutes a day. I'm going to write for 30 minutes a day, and I'm going to try to exercise for 30 minutes a day. I don't know why I picked those 3 things. They were just totally random at that point in time. They were things that we were doing in the NICU. Like, they weren't necessarily scripted or anything like that. It wasn't like some requirements. It was just things that I used to do when I was around Amelia in the NICU. And I was like, look, I'm going to keep writing to you every single day, and I'm going to keep trying to learn, just keep my mind engaged. Along the way, as you know, this whole story and this whole journey, through doing that every single day, the compound effect of figuring out through those activities, ultimately, I started to figure out my way through the rubble with Amelia and figure out, like, what are these values that really matter in life and all this other stuff. That's the whole story of this year, Magical Learning, right? And eventually, at a certain point in time, those activities started to compound into a lot of different things. I found myself writing a book, or I found myself hundreds of books into this whole entire process. I found myself winning tennis tournaments. I found myself running half marathons, all these other things, because it just slowly started to add up. And for me, none of that really mattered, because it wasn't ever about that. It was always about trying to find a way to stay connected to Amelia and just keep pushing forward and honoring the promise that I made to her of, like, I'm going to keep fighting for your life. And eventually it led me to meaning and purpose and meaningful relationships and meaningful work and all the other stuff that we talk about, right? Well, one of the things that's always troubled me about those 3 things that I chose to do on that first day and have continued to do every single day since then. So when I wrote this one, it was 736 days into the journey after Amelia had passed away. And, now we're at, I don't know, like 950 or something like that, or 940 or something along those lines. So that was almost 200 days ago that I wrote this, about Running with Sherman. But anyway, the nothing's changed since then. I still do those activities every single day. And when I do it now, that's what I call living for 2. And I'm doing that with Amelia. So one of the things I've always struggled with a little bit was the idea of, what is the working out has nothing to do with any of my values, right? I'm like, the learning, the reading every day, like, that's clearly aligns with my learn something every day value that Amelia and I found along the way. The writing clearly aligns to a lot of the other things that I value every single day. Like, those were crystal clear in my head, and they were easy to do, and they were super simple. Like, running every day, exercising every day, working out every day, whatever it may be. Health isn't one of my values that I care about. Challenge myself, maybe, is kind of how I've always justified it a little bit. But it's always been a bit of a stretch to figure out, like, what does that fit into all this stuff? And then I started after I was reading this book, it kind of just hit me, like, movement is medicine. Christopher McDougall talked about the concept of movement as medicine in the book. And he said, no matter what you've suffered, we're always ready to rebuild once we start to move again. Rest too long after an injury and your system literally powers down and prepares for a peaceful exit. Fight your way back on your feet, and it triggers you to switch to heal. And as I heard that, I was like, that makes sense. Every single day that I go out and go on a run with Amelia these days, or that I do a workout every single day and I'm living for 2 with her, like, there is just something magical about it that switches me onto, okay, it's time to go fight, engage, it's time to keep moving and keep pushing forward and heal and keep doing what I promised to my daughter, keep on this mission, keep on this quest, keep on this journey, keep exploring, keep being curious, keep living your values, keep living for two, keep doing your purpose, all these things, right? And I feel like movement may have been like that glue that's holding it all together, really, and pushing me forward through exercise and through just making your body, forcing your body to go forward, literally moving yourself forward every single day and in an attempt to drive toward that purpose and live for two, like I've told Amelia I would do. So that's what this book made me think about as I heard Sherman's story. Look at what it did for Sherman. Literally, movement healed his body. He would have died. When he slowly started moving, slowly but surely, he healed. Donkeys' purpose is to move. So we talk about, our beavers must dam, right? Donkeys' purposes are literally if they have to move. That is their job, is to carry shit and to move. Movement really is big medicine. And the reflection is don't stop moving. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how does movement heal you or help you heal when you're down, or just thoughts in general about it.
3 words for you.
Donkey must run, Yeah.
Right. We talk about painter must paint, right? Writer must write. Beaver must dam. The thing is, what happened if your foot was in a cast and you left it for a year and never used it? What happened to your foot? It actually is going to wither away and just disappear because that. And same thing with the arm. If you broke your arm and you left it there, it's going to actually become a stick. I have my arm broken before and I have a cast. It's only for 3 months, but when they took off the cast, my arm was actually fixed at an angle, whatever the angle of the cast was. I had to really use the other hand to kind of stretch it out slowly. And it's very hard because it stays fixed in that position and it starts to, so you can see the difference between the healthy arm and the arm that has didn't move. You're talking about a thin round stick, just bone. That's all you see. I mean, it's not like I don't move, it's just the arm doesn't move. Just imagine the whole body doesn't move. It's not about the destination, it's about the journey, because we're talking about whether we want to say, hey, I want to go on vacation, right? Then I want to go, get home. I want to go on an airplane, hurry up and take off. And then, when the airplane landed, I want to hurry up and get out, right? And then I hurry up and do. So the thing is for me is that the beaver must dam, because that's how we are made. Monkeys.
Gotta do shit.
Monkeys, beavers, human, we are made to move. We have to move because that's our essence. It's because if you don't move, you're not human.
I agree.
Trees don't move, right? But that's the thing is we have the DNA that requires to move. If you don't move, this is what happens when you don't do your beavering on purpose.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not gonna last long, and you don't have a very pleasant life. You take a fish out of water, right? You take a fish out of water. He's not meant to be out of the water, and so he's gonna gasp for air, and he's gonna suffer until you put him back into the water. Sherman is a donkey, especially a four-legged animal like a donkey or a horse, right? And zebra, they have speed for a reason, right? They have good speed because they are made to run. Their DNA is composed of different kind of compound that makes them very, very fast. That's why they're made to run. And you put them into a shed and you let them stand there, it's going to deteriorate. Just like your arms being put in a cast and don't move, and you don't move it at all. So imagine if I broke my arm and the doctor put my bones together and wrap it in a cast. After 3 to 6 months, they take out the cast and my arm is stuck like that. And I don't move it. I don't stretch the arm. Then my arm will stay like that, and eventually it's going to wither away and disappear. So the only way for me to get reuse of my arm is to push it, because that's how we are made as, like I say, beaver must dam. We must express our gene. If you don't express your gene, you are like the donkey. You're like the fish out of water. You are like the arm that's in a cast, and you say, well, it's frozen at that angle, and I'm not going to force it to do anything. I'm going to let it be. I mean, the thing is, that's an example of what happened when you let it be. Like what happened when you're not beavering on purpose.
You die.
Wither away,
it destroys your soul.
You cease to exist.
Right.
You have a short life. Not only you have a short life, but you have a miserable experience of that life.
Yeah. I mean,
to me, that's the thing is, people say, like I say, life is a struggle. You must struggle. Yeah, I agree at some point, but the thing is, that's not the only option. If you find what you are, you can do things better than anyone because you are so addicted to it
Right.
that you can spend more time than anyone and be better than anyone, but still enjoy the act of that movement, the act of the explorations and discovery of whatever that's you're chasing after.
Agree.
But people say, you must be like miserable. You must endure pain to have anything worthwhile, right? To me, I don't disagree, but I disagree that on the fact is that's the only way.
Pain doesn't have to be miserable though. Like you can endure pain. I'm in pain every day when I go. I ran on a 4 mile run out in the cold today because I do this stuff. I try to do it in the wintertime as much as I can outside.
Subjective because
I mean, it was
because
painful.
the thing is, if you go to the point where, let's say you haven't exercised for months and then you start running 5 mile, you come home, your body is sore, but then somebody start putting ice pack or start massaging the leg, whatever. That's pain, but it feels damn good.
Well, actually, there was a book, Dopamine Nation, where you can get the dopamine feel from doing more stuff, or the other end of the spectrum, experiencing some shit, like eat the frog kind of stuff. You can get dopamine lift by enduring pain, and then everything else is up from there, right?
That's contrast, experience of contrast. Right. And you have to take blue pill and the red pill together and to experience a contrast. And contrast is what we want. We are a creature of motion. And we're not the only one. I mean, monkeys, eagles,
everything in this world is in motion.
A plant doesn't move.
They move up, like trees grow.
They do.
I mean, fungi expands out. Everything kind of is moving. I don't think there's anything that's just static in this world.
Well, no, but for animals specifically, the expressions of the motion, it's so strong that if you don't move, you won't survive. That's why they put you in jail, right? If you do something bad, they put you into this 6x6 box.
Right.
And say, hey, I'm restricting your movement. The punishment for prisoners is loneliness. The second big thing is you limit it. You put somebody in a box, 6x6, and you restrict it. You can only stay in this box for most of the time, and you can only go to the courtyard, which is limited by these fence. That's why people don't want to go to jail when they stay in prison, right? They'd rather go outside and be free, because we are creatures of motion. We must express that. If not, then you have a negative experience of life.
Right. I agree. It makes me think of two things. A book that we haven't read yet, two books we haven't talked about yet, is Anti-Fragile. Nassim Taleb's Anti-Fragile. Mm-hmm. And if you don't use it, you lose it. It talks about it in that book. If you don't use your brain, you lose it. If you don't use your body, you lose it. If you don't use anything, if you don't use the things that we were given in this world, like you said, if a beaver doesn't dam, like they'll probably just die. I mean, like it's it literally is. If you don't use
because it goes against its being, its existence, right? The cells and the organs has a job, has an existence. Its job is to do certain thing. So if you don't let it do its job, it's gonna die. That means that whatever faculty you have, it's no longer existing. It disappeared. Therefore, you lose it because you are a composition of multiple things together, like an ecosystem, a biodome, and your gut. You have your nervous system, you have the blood system, the intestines, the brain, the heart, whatever. You have a bunch of these systems to get you compositions of these things. And whatever faculty you have, it's there and it's working. And the moment you stop it from doing its job, right, it died. That means that faculty has been removed from you so that you don't no longer have that weapon or that tool that was there from the beginning. So same thing for you is those systems make up who you are, and that who you are must also express what you are, because you are a beaver, you have to name. You are an eagle, you must fly. If you don't fly, the eagle is not going to live that long, and it's going to have a miserable life, miserable existence, right? Because you are suppressing its expressions of its gene. You're suppressing your expression of yourself.
Like if you kind of think about it in one way, like building a dam, if you are a beaver, if we're going to go with that analogy, or a donkey and you're running through the forest all the time, tens of 20s of 30s of miles a day or something like those lines, like going back to the idea of pain, like that's painful for a lot of people. Like that's painful. Like, I mean, if you told me to
build a dam, if you ask a fish to run, but you ask a donkey to do that, that's like running downhill.
But right, it is running downhill, but it's still painful. Even running downhill is still painful, even for human beings.
I'm just giving you the imagery of asking a fish to run through the forest of 30 miles a day, or ask a
Oh yeah.
monk, or asking a donkey to run, or asking a cheetah to run 20, 30 miles a day. Well, the thing is, it's relative. Pain is relative because you're
And,
looking at the fish, right? It's impossible for him. It's like it's gonna take his whole being just to
right.
move a few inches.
Right.
Or you ask somebody like a hippo to climb a tree, right? To climb a tree and sit on a tree all day. You look at a hippo versus a monkey, right?
Uh,
It's pain because the word pain is not an accurate description of what we're trying, because it's just a label we made up, right?
sure. I mean, I know. Let's always be impeccable with your word. I agree, but like, let's for this because we don't have another word to use right now. We're going to call pain as something that's uncomfortable, not as something that is debilitating, but something that is uncomfortable. Let's call that the pain definition that we're going with, right? It is probably not comfortable for anybody to run downhill. I mean, it's less uncomfortable.
But that's why I say it's relative, because you're
Right.
going uphill versus downhill. You're still exerting energy going downhill. It's just you have more strides and more
I mean, honestly,
distances in your effort, right? Your effort has been multiplied and leveraged.
right.
It's going against you.
But what I'm getting at is purpose is still painful, but it's like an enjoyable pain, right?
So the connotations of pain is something I don't want. But the thing is, if you say to the point where pain is something that could be positive or
That's what I'm saying.
negative, this is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what I'm talking about with movement as
the
medicine.
The imagery in most people's head is pain is something that's negative.
Pain, yeah, pain doesn't have
Pains
to be
and
suffering.
sorrow. Right?
Pain can also be purpose, like in a weird way. Like pain can literally be, you're doing your purpose and it's painful, but it's also a good painful. Like it reminds me so much of that Dopamine Nation book where she talked about. I just pulled up some quick notes really fast on that one because I couldn't remember exactly what she said, but she was talking about like pain and pleasure in general. If you seek one, you're actually going to get the other. So if you go the pleasure route all day, every day.
Red pill.
So the idea of embracing pain as a way to ultimately get you more toward a pleasurable existence, like that is a philosophy that you could take. I'm not saying the pain in the bad way, like atomic bomb pains, but like stimulated pain of running 5 miles in the cold or something like that. Like I can endure that. It hurts. It's not fun, but I feel better afterwards because I get back into the house and I'm like, yes, all right, Amelia, we did it. Great run today. I'm ready to go tackle on other stuff, right? Like, I mean, it's not
I think there's up to doing this because it's not a clear cut black and white whether you do this and do that, right? Because there's certain things that like pain is good and sometimes pain is bad. Because if I give you like small dose of poison every day, right? Sometimes those poison can make you stronger, sometimes make you weaker and you die. I mean, so to me, it's not black and white. It's not, always this or that and other. There's an art to it, right? And certain things apply and certain things doesn't apply. Because if I keep beating you, let's say I keep beating you with my fist or some hard object every single day, eventually your brain's gonna hurt and you're gonna have concussions and you will have a headache and you might die from that. You break down the muscle and the muscle builds back up again, right? And so in that case, it's completely two different things, right? One is good, one is bad. But how do you know which one is good, which is bad? So that's never, ever a clear cut to say, hey, no pain, no gain.
Right.
It's never like that. So you have to make sure that when you go into something, you have to understand that it's always pros and cons. And it's never this and that. And so don't take any concept with the absolute. There's no absolute.
I think the pain that you choose to embrace should be the pain that aligns to your purpose.
The thing is when you have something that is your purpose, right? If whatever you do aligns with your purpose, whatever pain it comes at you, you can endure it. What was the saying that Viktor Frankl say? A man with a why
can overcome anyhow.
Exactly. Right. Well, I mean, that's the thing is when it aligns with whatever you're doing, aligns with your purpose, you have the strength to endure it. Because you can see people say, well, this guy is nuts. This guy is superhuman. This guy is stupid or whatever you want to say. Whatever he does, he's able to do it because it aligns with his purpose. Therefore, he can endure it. He can do that all day, every day.
Right. Like a beaver never gets tired of damming, right? That's why we keep saying a beaver must dam. And like, it's probably painful. like, but it's a good pain that aligns to their purpose. So therefore, like, it feeds their soul, and it gives them fulfillment.
Because you look back at Viktor Frankl, right? Because he has a reason. He can endure the prison scenario. Other people don't have a purpose. They tend to they say, well, I give up. I start smoking my last cigarettes. And, a lot of people does that in World War II. Like, they just say, hey, I have no reason to live. So
I quit.
They die. But a man with a why who can do it anyhow.
Exactly.
And so that's the thing is the purpose of who you are, and you're able to express it. It allows you to have the strength to endure any pain that comes at you.
Purpose is motion. Like, purpose is motion, though. Like, so going back to, like, the movement is medicine.
Well,
like,
purpose is whatever you're supposed to manifest. It could be motion because you has a motion gene that needs to express it. If your purpose is to be swimming, right? Then you be swimming. Your purpose is to climb, you be climbing. Your purpose is to fly, you fly.
But purpose is an action. Like, it has to be an action. Like,
well, purpose is your calling. Purpose is your ability to manifest. It's just like a magnet, right? A magnet, it is what it is. It has its characteristic, right? A magnet is going to attract something or repel something because of its characteristic. It is manifesting what it is. It is manifesting what it is. You and I are exactly like an object. You have certain DNA and molecules in you. It makes up who you are, who I am. And because of who I am, my characteristic, I have to manifest, have to express the gene that I have. If you are a talker, right, you have the gene to talk. Right. You need to talk, otherwise your day is boring if you don't talk. Right. And vice versa. If you have somebody who is a hermit and he's an introvert and he doesn't want to think and talk to people, you ask him to talk, it's like, pulling teeth. Right.
Well, I mean, like, what you just said had a really interesting corollary in my head of, like, the idea that purpose is fragile. I mean, if you don't use it, you lose it. I could easily tomorrow wake up and decide, you know what, Amelia, not today. We're not going to read. We're not going to write. We're not going to exercise or whatever. And I could do that the next day. And I do that for a month down the road or whatever. The purpose goes away. Like, it's no different than anything else. It has to be in action and in motion for it to be activated, for it to be a part of your life.
If you don't do it, you're suppressing its expression. That's all I'm saying. I mean, because the book Anti-Fragile, I think that's a little bit more advanced.
It is
concept to understand. Purpose is fragile. I say, okay, I have no idea what you're saying, but sounds cool. Expressing your purpose is anti-fragile. No one knows beyond me and you. No one knows what we're talking about.
Well, that's okay. Like, this is our show. This isn't other people's. So they can go read that shit if they want to, or they can jump ahead and figure out what anti-fragile is, because it's another book down the road that we'll talk about. But no, you're right. Like, we should probably jump ahead and things. But
that's why I stick with the beaver must damn too. They say, can you stop talking about the beaver? Then I move up to the next level.
Well, a donkey must run. Now that we've heard Running with Sherman,
a donkey must run. Say beaver must damn, donkey must run. The other run downhill, right?
Right.
That's the transition we're trying to move up to the point where we say, okay, now imagine taking all that concept and move up to say, hey, now you're a human, right? You have all these options, and you need to combine this into this inserto, as Nicholas Taleb would put it. Inserto, what it is that you must express. You need to express yourself. Find out who you truly are and express yourself. And if you do that, right, that's beavering on purpose.
Man, can you imagine the omen of the universe if Sherman was a beaver and this poor beaver was dying because he couldn't dam, and Christopher McDougall decided to go to a dam making competition or something like that and bring other beavers along and made it this big thing. Can you imagine the universe omens of that one? It would have been like, oh, Jesus Christ. Yes. Like, of course Sherman's a beaver, and
got a beaver.
Taking him to the big dam building competition in Leadville, Colorado.
Yeah, and he found his purpose.
Right.
Right. Honestly, it sounds a little bit cheesy.
It does.
The point is to transition from a simple concept to what we can apply and say, hey, I'm not a beaver. Yes, I understand a beaver must dam, but I'm not a beaver. So what do I do? So we got to transition now from a beaver to donkey to a cheetah or whatever, that more advanced, up to the point where, okay, we get to the point where we're close to the humans, and the humans say, okay, we have all these faculties and all these options.
Right.
How do we move forward with these? Versus, hey, I'm just this simple animal that can only make dams, and I'm just a simple rodent.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean, the more that I think about it, the more that I think that whatever your purpose is has to be able to be done every single day. Like you can't have a purpose that's like a long-term purpose. It's like, look, I'm
that's
here
not a
to.
purpose. I
Right.
mean, if you,
That's a dream. That's a vision.
I mean, you
You know,
cannot stop being who you are. If
right.
you are not being who you are suppressing your expression.
Exactly.
If you
And
are suppressing
it'll
your
kill you
expressions, it's a miserable existence, and you have a short life because you will die.
if you don't bring. Have we gone through this
Eh,
one yet? If you don't bring forth what's inside of you,
Yes, we
what's
have.
inside of you will kill you. But if you do bring it
Yes,
forth, it'll save you, right? So I
yes.
mean, it's got to be every day. Like,
And that's an advanced concept as well.
right.
Eventually, when we stack up these concepts, it will make sense later on.
Right. Well, it makes sense to us. I mean, this is our
Yeah,
journey.
but
Like,
you and I had 2.5 years of training every single day for.
that's true. But no, but like this is really important for me, like, because like I'm no longer in the rubble back in the day. Like
Mhm.
I've told you this, like I don't feel the same way that I felt, you know, the weeks, months, even a year after Amelia had passed away anymore. And I don't mean that to like mean that I forgot about my daughter or something like that. Like it's a part of my elephant at this point in time. Like what I'm doing every single day is a part, my purpose, and living that purpose is a part of my elephant. It's almost subconscious now. But these conversations help to bring that back up to my writer to remember, like,
Right.
sometimes I don't want to go on a run, to be honest with you. I mean, like, there's days, especially when it's the wintertime and it's cold out, and I'm like, look, get your ass out the door. Like, what would Amelia do? Remember the why. I'm pulling out every trick that I can possibly think of to get my ass in gear and get out there and go, right? But at the end of the day,
It's
these
because
conversations,
it's because in life is not something that you exist by yourself. There's going to be things around you that is going to distract you.
and important
Well, the thing
activities,
is,
the quad one,
we just talked about this before we start recording. Is we're talking about the things that we're being told by society that this is the right things, and we're being brainwashed to doing things that for no reason that you can understand or can think of. Talking about daycare, talking about like holidays
right,
and why holiday exists and whatnot, right? It has nothing to do with you. It just, I mean, people just made up of a certain holiday so they can sell stuff to you, and retailers or some kind of a union or whatever associations they're in, right? They say, hey, buy corn or buy wheat or buy whatever because they
right.
sell them, so they make up things so they're going to distract you from your purpose. And so it's hard to do your purpose by yourself because sometimes you don't have anyone to kind of like, hey, look, that's a distraction. It's not part of your purpose, so you have to come back. So that's why we talked about was yesterday, right? About the Alaskan bush.
Yeah.
So
I kept saying African, yeah, but
well, the thing is that I'm saying is there's always these external stimuli that's going to mess up your journey in doing your purpose, in being who you are and expressing yourself, because you're gonna get like interference, right? People's gonna come in and interference with, hey, I'm drinking this, I'm eating that, I don't run, I don't do that, I do blah blah blah. You get sucked into this vortex of different narratives that because you don't live by yourself. There's
right.
things around you. When you're talking about, like I say, I mean, let's maybe take an example of the beaver. You have a beaver that comes and build a dam. Somebody comes in and just knocks the dams out.
Right.
So you get interfered by other things. But that's the thing is, the beaver can rebuild the dam, right? And so if you, it's not going to be a point where you have no distractions. It's always going to be distractions. The art is to figure out what you need to do to get back to being who you are on purpose. Express yourself in a way that you need to express yourself.
Agreed. And I think I had another epiphany while we've been having this conversation as well. Like, I actually don't know that you can live your purpose by yourself. I know we always talk about meaningful relationships, but I've always thought, like, without Amelia, without you, without other people in my life to do this stuff, I don't know that this purpose would endure. I mean, I always have somebody to, because I was about ready to say like, well, I run alone a lot, because you were saying like, I think you had said something about sometimes it sucks doing these things alone. But like the truth is I'm never alone, because I'm always with Amelia when I'm doing these things, and I know that, and it's in my subconscious. And when I'm doing this stuff with you, I'm always
That's
doing
what
this
you've
with
been
you.
able to do for the
Yeah,
past 2.5 years. But imagine
right.
if you don't have somebody to have in your mind, to have a conversation with, you won't be able to endure. You won't be able to remember
Yeah,
that. You can distract it and say, hey, squirrel,
right.
like does
Yeah,
in the
right,
movie
right.
Up, and you completely forgot what you're supposed to do. And then you let astray to whatever end, and then suddenly you wake up in the middle of the night and you're like 70 or 80 or 90 years old and say, shit, I forgot I need to go back to do
Right.
whatever. But then it's like 20, 30 years, 40 years too late.
Agreed. So two epiphanies in this one. Purpose has to be an action, and it can be done every single day. And purpose has to be done with somebody else in that action every single day as well. Like, I mean, I know we call that meaningful work and we call that meaningful relationships.
The concept that people understand a little bit better is to kind of elevate it to a point where it's a meaningful work, meaningful relationship.
Right.
So, I mean, the thing is, I like the meaningful relationship part of it. I don't really like I'm not happy totally with the word work.
Meaningful action.
Meaningful purpose or purposeful
Yeah.
expressions and meaningful relationship, maybe. But it's just that the word has been misused so much that every time you utter it,
Yeah.
people conjure this negative image. It's just like I asked you, hey, what's your dream job?
Well, job is
When people say, well, it's a job, I don't want a job.
right. Yeah. No, I was gonna say.
I don't dream about a job. I dream about not having a job.
Right. I don't know, owning a tennis club. Like I don't know, but that has nothing to do with being a job. I mean,
It's
like
not a job.
I
It's
just
not
want to play
so.
tennis all
So
day.
job
Yeah.
associate with work, right? And these things has a negative associations. That's what I'm saying is I'm not happy with the word
I agree.
work.
Oh, hey, always
It,
being. That's how we're redefining the words. Like we can make whatever words we want to make up, to equal company. But I think at the end of the day, like purpose to live a purpose-driven life, you have to have meaningful action and meaningful
mm,
relationships to do those meaningful actions with every day. Like it's
yes.
like the multiplier has to be every day. It cannot be once in a while. Well, I guess it can be, but like, if you don't use it, you lose it kind of thing.
It's for me, it's not necessary to do the everyday thing because if you tell me to stop breathing, I mean, this is what I'm going back again. If you tell me to stop breathing for like a day, right? It's not possible. I want to
Right.
breathe all the time.
Right.
I'm a fish. I want to swim all the time. To me, if it is your purpose, then it's a given that you
Right.
do it like all the time. If you don't do it all the time, it's not real. It's not a purpose. I
I
mean,
agree.
it's whatever, it's fascinations or whatever it is you want to call it, but it's not purpose. Just stop eating for 30 days.
Right.
Stop breathing for 2 days. What happens when you stop breathing for 2 days?
I assume.
You lose it.
Right. I assume you lose
I
the ability
have
to breathe.
never,
Yeah.
I know people can hold their breath for like 10 minutes, 15, even 30 minutes, but never have I ever come across somebody that can stop breathe for 2, 3 days.
Right.
You're not.
Help, like external help, yeah.
Oh, I mean, it's
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's the expression of yourself. So it's like a magnet. Say, hey, stop being a magnet. Stop attract, the the
the other
metal, right?
opposite, right.
I mean, either you push or you attract and do nothing, right? Because the moment that you have a magnet, that's nothing. What happens to the magnet?
I don't
It's
know.
no
I guess
longer a magnet. It's a metal.
it just loses its. Yeah, you're right. It's
So
pointless.
if I'm a person and you tell me to stop breathing, right? I stop being a person. I'm being a dead person. I stop being a living person. I stop being a dead body.
Agreed.
This is as simple as I can put it.
It's movement is medicine. You got to keep moving if you want to live a purpose-driven life. You got to move.
You gotta do you. You got to be who you
Yeah.
are. Express what you're supposed to express. If you don't, I mean, you're not gonna be who you are. Just like I say, because I'm a human or an animal, I needed oxygen for me to live.
Right.
Therefore, I always gonna be breathing. I'm not gonna ever say, I'm tired of breathing. I'm gonna stop breathing for a while. I'm taking a break. Think about it. If your heart say, hey, I'm taking a break. I have pumps, billions of times already. I'm going to stop.
It's funny though, because you're hitting on the idea of the, I don't know the word for this, but the symbiotic relationship of everything living their purpose in tandem, right? If one of those things breaks down, you're all fucked. If your lungs' job is to breathe, if it stops, you're fucked. If the heart stops pumping,
You're fucked.
that's its purpose, you're fucked. If your brain stops, all these things, it'll shut down other things, and it's like a chain reaction of, and that is if you don't use it, you lose it. Like if you don't,
you tell the heart to stop doing its purpose for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, right. You might not come back. Because the whole ecosystem is wrecked.
Exactly. So the same goes for you not living your purpose. Like slowly but surely you wreck the ecosystem.
You're going to wreck the ecosystem of what depends on you.
And the littlest thing can wreck an ecosystem, like it could be every day when you run through that train or something like that. Right, exactly. Like it's yeah, so I think, well, anyway, let's put a pin on this because we have two other purpose conversations to talk about with Running for Sherman, because that's what the book's about. So I know we've been on a purpose train for the past couple weeks.
I think there's a theme going on here.
Well, that's what this journey is about, is purpose, values, and overcoming pain and loss, I guess, at the end of the day.
This is something we have discovered. It's not something we say, hey, we're going to build company because we want to like do a purpose. I start to ask myself and make a self-assessment. It's who I am and what makes me happy, and how do I feel if I do this? What's my experience like when I do this, that, and the other? And so we discovered that purpose is essential to all these things that we all do.
Correct. Like it's been the journey that's led us to these conversations, but you're seeing how the journey starts to unfold. Like we're on reflection 170 or whatever.
Only halfway.
And we're only halfway there. Like, I mean, we got a lot more conversations about values and purpose to come, but it never gets old because it's always a different twist on it. Like, yesterday, this day is about movement is medicine that led into Beaver Must Amp. Like, I bet if you went and looked back, if we used a tool like Gong and analyzed our calls and did some AI functionality.
Purpose is a huge thing in the middle.
Purpose would be huge. A Beaver Must Dam would be right next to that. And then you'd have like values, like, I swear to you, that's probably the number one topic beyond like purpose or whatever. It's really funny how this is all taking shape. But anyway, more Beaver talk to come tomorrow. Everyone, stay tuned. I'm sure we'll talk about donkeys as well. And maybe we'll talk more about donkeys in the long run. This is the first donkey mention, everyone. So keep tuned. All right. Well, any final thoughts for the day on movement as medicine?
So it's something that you must do. You cannot suppress it. If you do, then stop breathing for a little bit and see what happens. I mean, it's a miserable last 5 minutes. If you ask me to stop breathing for 5 minutes, it's gonna be totally, like, completely painful for me. The threshold of pain for me to stop breathing 5 minutes, and then I become a dead body. Movement is something that we have as a gene, and it's something that we have to do.
Don't stop moving. That's my statement. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you all tomorrow.
Okay. Good night.